Or we went live.
Okay, good luck to everybody. Today we are going to continue restart chapter 245 and hopefully be able to finish it. A lot of interesting material here. But before we begin, I want to touch upon some current events that relate to also. Some of you may have seen this past Shabbos there was a fire in this building on Shchunat Ofer.
The one where the kid died?
Yeah, I mean, there's only one fire that I am aware of. So I want to just review a few points regarding these matters regarding Shabbos. The Alter Rebbe records in the beginning of chapter 328, Shin Chav Ches. It's the easiest chapter not to forget because it stands for Shochach, forgetting. So if you ever forget where first aid laws are discussed, just remember Shin Chav Ches, Shochach. Right? So in chapter 328, in the very beginning, Alter Rebbe already sets out the guidelines and saying that if anyone is hesitant to do something for the necessity of saving a life, worry that he's breaking Shabbos, number one, he's doing something terribly wrong, but number two, the spilling of blood is on the hands of the rabbi who didn't teach properly. So that's why it's something important that every Maggid Shir, every Rav, everyone who has influence must review occasionally these halachas so people know the truth, that they have an obligation. It's not a matter of whether you like to or not. You have an obligation to desecrate Shabbos for the sake of saving the life of a Jew, or even perhaps saving the life of a Jew. We know the Alter Rebbe on Yom Kippur, the Rebbe mentioned this in one of the early Sichos, Tafshin Yuds. The Alter Rebbe on Yom Kippur went and put down, after Shachris, he put down his talus and he went to him at the edge of the city and he cut up wood and he turned on a fire for the sake of a woman who was in the midst of giving birth. And when the Alter Rebbe was asked by the Chassidim, you could have sent one of us. The Alter Rebbe says the halach is that it has to be begodel. The greatest of the congregation is the one to be Mechal Shabbos, to prove that it's not something that we play around with, it's something that is allowed to be done. And therefore, and has to be done, obviously. Required to be done, yeah. So, bottom line, regarding if a fire breaks out on Shabbos, even though we have a whole sugya in the Gemara and Shabbos discussing what to do, and we have a whole Mishnah and Gemara, the things you're allowed to take out and not allowed to take out, and we have, of course, in the Shulchan Aruch in chapter 334, Shin Lamed Daled, that discusses all this, which makes it sound like you really can't put out a fire on Shabbos. That's what it sounds like from the sources, unless it's like a very extreme situation that, someone's life is really in danger. But in general, you're never allowed to put on fire on Shabbos. But the truth is that this it has, in today, practically the way we rule, as is written in all the Svarim of Hilchos Shabbos, based on the idea of Pikuach Nefesh, that because buildings are connected and it's hard, and we have now apartment, high-rise buildings, it's hard to get to everybody, every fire is considered a sakana. Now, it doesn't mean you can put out your candle on Shabbos, right? That's not right now a conflagration. It's not something that is in the midst of a threat of danger. But any fire that has begun to spread, we shouldn't try to take a gamble and say, well, maybe it'll go out on its own. First of all, just the smoke itself is the greatest hazard in a fire, not the actual burn. Right? That's the primary cause of death, is the smoke inhalation. Number one. Number two, fires can spread in ways that we have no idea. A fire can spread in a whole room in less than 2 minutes. So it's something that you can't play around with. Now, if you can throw it on a stone floor and it'll go on its own, small little fire, okay, then that's what you do. But otherwise, in general, everyone should take a stringent approach to put out a fire if they see it, and not try to be machmir and chilul Shabbos, because you have to put away the danger. This is especially applicable today, being that housing and apartments all contain usually a central gas line, which if the fire reaches, chas v'shalom, it can be something very terrible. Not to mention that there's also the gas. There are gas canisters in many homes, and that can cause a big explosion. So all these things we don't really have control of. It's not like back in the day where something could be an isolated incident. And therefore, bottom line is that that's the directives that we put out fires. With that said, obviously it's an obligation to set up the Shabbos candles in a way that is not a fire hazard. I'll just give a few case examples. Number one, there's no heter to break Shabbos for the sake of your Shabbos candles, meaning that initially a person has to set up in a way that there's no worry of it causing a fire. A person is not even allowed to place water in a vessel for the fire to fall into. That is written in Shulchan Aruch that it's forbidden to be done. Rather, you have to take other precautionary measures, such as putting it on a stone surface where there's no chance of anything catching fire if it were to fall. In the event that a flame was placed in an area that can catch on fire, there's no heter to put out. The only heter there is for you to stay up all night and watch it. That there's a heter for. You can stay up all night and watch your flame until it goes out. But you don't have the right to put out a flame because of chashash sakana, so you can get sleep. You have to stay up. And so that's why a chacham einav bereishai, the wise man has his eyes and his head to precede what's necessary, and you don't put your candles in an area that can be a hazard. For the same reason, the Red Cross and also here in Israel Madda, they all say that the two major causes of fires are not cigarette butts and are not barbecues left open. They are electric fires and they are unattended candles. Those are the two main causes. So bottom line is that we cannot leave candles unattended. So if somebody, for example, is going away, then let's say they're eating at someone else's house. And what I tell people to do, in addition to the halachic discussion, is for that reason alone to light by that person's house. Because if you're going to leave candles unattended in your home, who knows what can happen? Who's going to be in charge? It's not just a matter, I'll take the risk in my apartment. What about everyone else's home? What about everyone else's lives? So if it's in an area that there's mamish nothing suspect for, okay. Like as I said, on a stone counter, that even if it falls, nothing will happen. But in general, the directive is not to do so. And this is the directive found in all public areas. All yeshivas, they don't allow students to light candles in their rooms, in dormitories, in seminaries, in hospitals. And a person's not allowed to be machmir in a hotel room. The general directives are you cannot light candles in your room. You have to go into the kitchen or into the dining room where they have a set area. And the person cannot be machmir. It's not allowed to be machmir at the expense of the host. There was a story that happened not too long ago where a woman lit candles in her, I think it was a hotel room. It doesn't matter. It was a room she was staying in a public area, whether it was a Beit HaChlama or hotel, whatever it was, and she lit candles against the directives of the institution. And Baruch Hashem, not too much happened, but the blinds and basically the whole wall caught fire from her candles, which were unattended, of course. And then the question came, who's chayiv to pay? And the Beis Din said that she was chayiv to pay for all the damages because she didn't have a right to light candles there.
One question of a practical matter. If you're going to go out to the Old City from where I live, Yolat Shoshana, or you go to Old City, you invited out to go light or have your wife go light at the place that's a mile and a half away or something like this before Shabbos is terribly...
Go before, what's it, the same way that you're going there on Shabbos to eat, go there before Shabbos. You're going there to enjoy their company, right? Why are you going? Not to talk to them, you're going there to have your backs to each other, you're going there to converse. So make a little longer, go there an hour before. Take Shabbos in early, go in a little bit before, you light candles there.
Your wife can go
Listen,
before.
Halachically, it's for sure okay, because in Hilchos Shabbos, the laws of Adlakas Neros depends on two things. Number one, Shalom Bayis in your home, and number two is having Einik Shabbos. And the main reason Al Teva says Einik Shabbos, which is an area that you eat, and therefore there's preference, in truth, to light where you will be eating and not in your home. If you light in your home, you have to follow all these guidelines, you have to come back on time for it to still be lit. You have to then eat a little bit next to it. Well, if you light it where you are, you're solving all the problems. But I'm just saying the risk factor of leaving candles unattended is something that a person has to take into account, and it's not allowed to be done. It's not allowed to be done. I'm telling you, if people follow these directives, lives would be saved.
Yeah, it makes sense.
That's the bottom line.
It's a whole very big tirka, though. It's really 2 hours before you're going to start eating. It's going to be a good long time before the people come to eat. The wife could go to
A person can even, one person can go light over there with, let's say, all the daughters, they light, unless someone stays home and watches the candles. I mean, what are you going to do?
But if you have a protected place to be doing it.
Again, if you listen, I'm not, I don't work for MADA. If according to MADA's regulations, they say this is a safe area to leave your unattended candles, so I'm not going to get involved.
Is there a halacha that you can't leave your candles unattended?
The halacha is you have to care about your life and the life of your surroundings. That's the halacha. It's not it's not a matter of Hilchos Shabbos that you have the candles to be attended. But together with that, there's other issues that come up. I'll give you an example. I discovered that in the seminary here, Beis Chana, the girls were lighting the Shabbos candles in their room, in their apartments, leaving it unattended and not coming back until it was extinguished. So first of all, massive safety hazard, number one. Number two, the bracha levatalas. They didn't fulfill the mitzvah because they didn't come back on time to benefit from the light.
And shul wouldn't work. Shul wouldn't work really.
Look at the irony. Here we have, people, girls, Baruch Hashem, who are going out on Friday, giving out the lakas neres to women to light, and doing mivtza neshek, and they're not fulfilling mivtza neshek. It's halacha. You can't play around with it. You can't say, oh, it's okay, I lit it anyways. It doesn't work that way. There's halachas. If you gave the woman candles to light on Shabbos night, you fulfilled the mitzvah. Of course, you didn't fulfill the mitzvah. There's guidelines, there's regulations. A person does not fulfill the mitzvah of lakas neres Shabbos, if they don't benefit from light. It's a bottom line, unargued halacha. And therefore, when they come back late at night, so that's another reason, by the way. If you're lighting candles, and in your home, what if you enjoy the conversation so much you want to stay another hour? How are you going to assess how long the candles last for? You have to come back at time to benefit from it. The easiest thing is just light where you will be eating Friday night. It's the easiest, simplest thing, and safest thing.
I see
It's a whole cultural change.
Well, it's a tirka. It's a
You
tirka.
can't
Go far away
benefit
from
from the Shabbos candles before Shabbos.
Say it again.
If you light the candles
Yeah.
and then do something by the
It's
candles.
light time. Why do I need the candles? I have the light.
So it has to be
It has to be at least Ben Hashmash. It's at least when it's darkening in the room.
Okay, I see a big entrepreneurial opportunity here for a MADA-approved product where your candles are totally safe left at home for the nights you go out. Oh, but then you have to be back to, as you said.
Yeah, that doesn't solve halachic issues.
They have to burn long enough to.
You have to come back with enough time to benefit from the candle.
So even if it's 3 minutes of benefit when you come back, if we do this nice product as a group here, we make a lot of money together.
It doesn't matter how long, as long as you benefit from it. It's
Okay.
fine. What I told them to do in the seminary was I told them, first of all, I said it's better just to light in the dining room. I said it's extremely unsafe to light it. Leave candles unattended in an apartment. I think it's extremely irresponsible. But that from halach perspective was a big problem. So I told them that at the very least, one person should have turns. Every Shabbos, one person should either stay or go back in order to benefit from the candles. But regarding, the way it usually works is that everything is okay. What are you worrying so much about until something happens? Oh my gosh, how did it happen?
We know how this
And the girls had to put it on a table and left. She came back, the candle had fallen off, and actually had thankfully the tablecloth was like a $30 table.
Oh, wow.
But otherwise.
Yeah, it's not a joke.
We had a situation where we had a guest who had a lot of kids, and she lit tea lights on a tray,
Right.
and the air conditioning was on,
Oh, wow.
and the tea lights united,
One huge bonfire.
one big bonfire, and it made a whole big, all the way up, cracked to the ceiling, burned the table, burned the thing on the table, and I immediately put it. I mean, as soon as I saw it, I immediately threw salt on it or whatever, and got rid of it and put it out.
Mhm.
But it was a little scary, to say the least. And that's with tea lights.
Right, fake tea lights would be safe.
They're not.
No flame is safe. A flame is what causes a fire. No flame is safe.
It's this discussion, then it's also what happened with Moshe, when
Yeah.
the Karlbach Moshe got burned down. So followers, like everyone responds, this is a good time for teaching.
Yeah, 100%. That's why we have to go into it. Two more points I'll mention. Number one is that, the municipality here decided to give a regulation against making bonfires for Lag BaOmer. A lot of residents were very angry. They told the mayor, I voted for you. I regret my vote. Give me back my vote. All this is nonsense. All this is nonsense. People have to, I don't understand where people come from, but people have to understand they don't own the city. Okay, there's rules, there's regulations, and we discussed this in another share, that city officials that were elected by the public, they have a mandate that is obligatory on the city residents. You don't like it, move somewhere else. No one's forcing anybody to live here, but if you want to live in a city, you have to follow the laws. According to Allah, you have to follow the regulations. So, people want to make bonfires wherever they want. It doesn't work that way. So we're very sorry you worked so hard, but you didn't get your permits. You didn't ask where you can do it. And it's, and malasot, you can't sacrifice the public because you have a personal desire to do something. And it's a mentality that I think is a very corrupt mentality a lot of people have. They think that the law is there just for the books, and if you can get away with it, it's not a crime. No, it's against Allah. You're not allowed to infringe on the public laws that are made for reasons to stop these things from happening. The last one I mentioned regarding the electricity, I said the second main cause of fires is electric fires, which usually break out due to having too much voltage in a socket. So it's important to know if someone is getting short circuits on their sockets, they shouldn't play around with that. They should check it out, get an electrician to check it out and see what's going on here. Why is it not able to take so much voltage? But that's what causes fires. What happens is that the coils are inside the wall, and especially if it's sheetrock, it's very flammable material. It's inside the walls, and that's how fires happen. Electric fires happen when there's too much energy going through that it can't handle. So these are all things that a person has to pay attention to, and especially Shabbos, where we're putting up all these, we have a plata on, we have this on, we have that on. A person has to be careful with these things. Okay, we're going to go straight now to 245. Reish Mem Hey, that's dealing with in continuation of our halachas of having Goyim work with us. We're doing business with Goyim over Shabbos. We so far discussed in 243 having a Goy lease our business and having it open over Shabbos in the cases that it's allowed and not allowed. In 244, we discussed having a Gentile work on a product of ours over Shabbos, when it's allowed, when it's not allowed. And now we're going to be dealing with a business that has joint ownership of a Gentile and a Jew. Can it be run on Shabbos or not? So we're going to read inside from beginning to end, and then I'm going to explain everything outside again. Reish Mem Hey, Sif Aleph, the Mechaber. Yisrael v'akum shutfin, eichis nagum Shabbos. If a Jew and Gentile are partners, how do they set it up regarding Shabbos? Can it be open on Shabbos? Can it not be open? What's going on? I mean, let's just imagine if we say that no, a Jew can never have his joint ownership with a Gentile store open or business open over Shabbos. Many Gentiles may be very reluctant to enter into such a business with a Jew. So let's see. We read this in the end of last class. We didn't finish it. A Jew and a Gentile who own together a field, an oven, a bathhouse, or a mill. Reish Mem Hey, you have it?
Yeah, it didn't go like,
Huh?
that's second time Shabbos.
Oh, okay. Im Hissum betchila b'shasha bo l'shtatev she'es char Shabbos lakim v'adei imat v'im harbe es chai mechen neged yom Shabbos Yisrael v'adei mutter. Leistum betchidik she'velach leknit lakim es char Shabbos kulam v'ashar chokim esay leis char Shabbos yedua yitul lakim v'adei shvius es char chomish. Okay, says the Mechaber a few different points. Point number one. The initial way of how this can be done in a mutter way. So number one, the good news is, you can get it on your phone. You can just put in
245 and Shulchan Aruch will get you there.
Right.
I think
that's the regular
It's a little
Shulchan Aruch.
different,
I think that's the Alter
Oh,
Rebbe. You have the Alter Rebbe Shulchan
so it
Aruch.
won't be anything like it, or it'll be some.
Well, I'm not reading from the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch.
okay.
You open up to use Safari or something else,
Yeah.
or even
Okay.
Wikitext or Wikipedia.
Yeah.
You'll get it. So he says a few points. Point number one is that there is a way. So that's the good news. There is a way to have your business or store open over Shabbos and make revenue with a Gentile partner. Let's go back. We're not discussing here a Jew hiring a Gentile to run a store on Shabbos. We already discussed that in the previous 2 chapters, and we said that's a complete no-no. It's completely us, or either due to Maras Ayin in the least case scenario, or due to the Isser of Schar Shabbos and the Isser of Amir L'Nachri in the worst case scenario, because you're paying him per hour. Even if you're paying Kabbalah, we said there's still the aspect of Maras Ayin involved, and you can't tell him to work on Shabbos. So there's all these restrictions. Here we're talking about, no, it's genuinely owned, joint ownership of a Jew and a Gentile, and he really has no prohibition of working on Shabbos. Only the Jew does. So how do we do this? It says like this: the way that it has to be done initially, the Galat way, the clear way, is to, in the beginning of the partnership, you had your meeting together in the restaurant, in the coffee shop, you discussed all the points of the business. Right there, before you sign on the contract, you have another contract that's going to detail, or another chapter in the contract that's going to detail and define the arrangement regarding Shabbos. What is the allowed arrangement? The allowed arrangement is like this: I will make all Thursday revenue, all the revenue that comes into the store from 6 a.m. Thursday to 6 a.m. Friday, for those 24 hours, are completely mine, 100% mine. So if we made that day, if $10,000, all those $10,000, you get a dime of it, even though we're partners. And corresponding to that, on Shabbos, you will make from the beginning of Shabbos, starting from, let's say, Shkia, okay, until the next day, Shkia, you will make all that revenue. Any money that came into the store is completely yours. And so what does it end up? That he's not working for me. He's not my shliach. I make nothing out of the fact that he worked on Shabbos.
Well, that's true, except the value of the business.
Yeah, that's a side point. And I understand, but that's not a halachic issue. It's not a halachic issue. If you told someone, where'd you buy that shulin from? It tastes really good. Oh, I bought it from this in this store, and now he's going to go get there. You just also raise the value of his business. Nonetheless, there's no prohibition. It's not an isser. There's no isser involved. However, once again, we've mentioned a few times, this is supposing there's no Maras Ayin. People know that this store is Jewish owned, then it's a problem of Maras Ayin, seeing that the guy is running it. Only if they know that it's also a guy that owns it, it's also owned by a Gentile, then would we have the heter. Otherwise, if it's people know it's a Jewish-owned business, then it's Maras Ayin, no matter what arrangement you make with the Gentile.
So there's a restaurant on the Upper West Side that has that kosher restaurant, but they have Shabbos meals there. And I don't know if the owner is Jewish or not.
The way it's done, that's something else. So that's done also in hotels. The way that's done is that you purchase a voucher before Shabbos, so you've already paid for your product. And on Shabbos, you're just getting fed. They're not, and obviously the guy are not allowed to do malacha. They can't heat up the food. They can't do any malacha to the food. Only something that's meant for
That's what we're doing in Chabad in Vienna this coming Shabbos.
What?
They have meals, and so we pay ahead of time.
Right. That's just like a hotel. Just like a hotel. The reason why it sounds not kosher is because it's taking place in a restaurant where you usually pay for your meal afterwards. But the arrangement is done in a way that there is actually no business taking place. In fact, you're even allowed to do it in a way that we trust the clients, the customers, and they will come after Shabbos and pay. I don't suggest doing it that way, but minadin, it's mutter to do such a thing, because it's you're not mentioning any money, that you shouldn't have any dollar signs on the menu. You'll charge them, you'll give them the nice big fat bill after Shabbos for what they had.
The non-malacha work, even if as long as it's not paid on Shabbos, paid for on Shabbos, non-malacha type work, and there is work that they carry things, they serve, that's all okay.
So there's two things here. There's from the aspect of me leaving my restaurant open for the sake of customers coming in and having meals, which I said that is now isser of business, because it's permitted for me to sell someone something on credit on Shabbos, a food product. I'm allowed to give someone a food product on Shabbos on credit. There's no isser in doing that, so long as we don't mention any money. So, again, I can have it on trust basis. Everyone comes in and takes whatever they want. Or I'll charge for the buffet per person. It's $50 a head. Everybody knows. You come in, after Shabbos, you pay me. Okay? So since we're not mentioning any money on Shabbos, no one's talking about the money. You eat what you want. After Shabbos, you come pay on a trust basis. There's no issue. because it's my, if we were talking about someone coming in and purchasing clothing, and of course it's forbidden. It's Isser doing business on Shabbos. But this is not clothing. This is something you need for Shabbos. It's
No
children.
sign with people seeing all these even Jews doing some kind of work, carrying things.
But that type of work is mutter. You know, how do caterings work? How do caterings work?
Yeah.
So how is that mutter? That has to be bavla. That's already between the owner and his workers. He has to arrange with his workers that you will start working before Shabbos, which is usually the case, because the way it works is that they come before Shabbos to set everything up. And I'm not paying you per hour, I am paying you per job. You can't pay per hour. So you'll have to arrange with these workers, you get paid, $100 per Shabbos or $250 per Shabbos, and that'll include the work of Erev Shabbos in preparation, the work of Shabbos, of course, and the Matzah Shabbos cleanup work. And that's how it's a mutter way of doing it. But obviously, in all these cases, the business owner has to discuss with a Rav who is well versed in these laws for him to get direction of how to do things properly to begin with. When not first start the business, do things wrong, and then wake up when someone mentions something to you.
If you suspect that Jews are actually using the business on Shabbos, so you know that by having a non-Jewish partner, keeping open on Shabbos, and the Jews are violating Shabbos.
Right. So that's a very good question. And again, from a legal halachic perspective, Lifnei Iver, the prohibition of don't put a stumbling block, has limitations. It doesn't stretch so far. It has limitations. And one of those limitations is that if I personally am not doing anything, and it's just I don't have the responsibility of removing an obstacle from them if they want to go and do it on their own. I have the responsibility of not putting an obstacle. Now, this guy wants to have the store open on Shabbos. It's his business just as it's mine. It's nothing to do with me. It's not my fault. Now, you're right. I have the ability to, in the beginning, demand that it's not open on Shabbos. And someone who does do that, it's a good thing, Tavei love bracha, to avoid the whole issue and not have it open on Shabbos at all. But if push comes to shove, minadin, it's allowed because I am not the one putting the stumbling block directly in front of this Jew. In addition to the fact, let's say it's a clothing store, and you have a number of clothing stores. You can go shop at any clothing store he wants. If my store wasn't open, he wouldn't go. We'll go to a different store. If we worry that if we assume that clients were so faithful that they would never go to another store, then why even open on Shabbos at all? They'll come anyways during the week and make more money during the week. You get a vacation day, but no, in business we know. People go by what's available. So if you close your store on Shabbos, not only will the Shabbos customers not come on Sunday, you may even lose Sunday customers. Anyways. So that was the first point. You do this conditioning. Point number two. Now, I'm going to point out already here that if you did this condition properly, and it has to be signed, it has to be legal. These things, a lot of people think that all these halachic workarounds, they're jokes, they're harama, they're just playing games to make the rabbis happy. So let's be very, very clear. If this is not legally binding in your state, in your country, it's completely worthless from a halachic perspective as well. Worthless. And therefore, if you make this condition, so let's say, the Igus Moshe, another place can discuss, we didn't sign anything. We spoke about it. We at our business meeting while I was chewing on the donut, he was sipping his coffee. We mentioned that he would work the Shabbos, I would work the week, and that's it. It's worthless. It has to be signed with a lawyer. It has to be something that can be enforced. And in such a case, because let's say it happened to be that Kratzmach weekend fell on your day, Thursday, and you made $20,000, double the amount that you normally make. And this poor guy, everyone was already, sleeping at home, waiting for, the presents to come, and nobody came to his store on Shabbos, and he made about $500. It's not fair. What is this? Let's split everything evenly. We have a contract. Now, if I want to do him a favor, I'm allowed to give him a present. Right? I'm allowed to give him a tana, but from a legal perspective, he has absolutely no claim. And if he does, then the contract was worthless. It has to be done in a legally binding way. This is not just with this, it's with all the halachic workarounds, and that's why it's necessary, and they have today Bati Dinim that deal with halachic contracts. And those halachic contracts are made in a way by justice officials, by lawyers who know the law, that it is legally binding. We had this issue not too long ago, about 20 years ago, with Heter Iska. So we know here in Israel that the banks are owned by Jews. We have a major issue of interest. It's forbidden to collect or take interest from a bank in Israel, or even a Goyish bank, a Jewish bank in the Chutz La'aretz, like Safra Bank. It would be forbidden unless there's Heter Iska, unless they have the halachically valid workaround contract that determines your loan to the bank, not a loan, but an investment. And then the bank is working with you in partnership to make money off of this investment. That's the general idea of Heter Iska. So the way it works, I don't want to go on a tangent right now, but the way it works is that usually there's a contract of exactly how much money you're allowed to make. So let's say according to the bank rules, they give you 1% interest rate, per year annually on the money you have in your account there. So let's say you have $1 million, they're going to give you, $10,000, for example. So technically, based on the Heter Iska, it may not be that much. It may be that he only has to give you $5,000 based on the Heter Iska agreement that the bank signs, and every person also should sign. You're able to sign it to the different abundant have the star available. You're able to sign it on your own. And so when you take $10,000, how is that allowed? The way it works is that the bank has to swear to you, or whoever the borrower is has to swear to you that they did everything properly, and this is the amount of money they owe you, only $5,000. And today we don't do shavuos. We don't do swears anymore. It's too much of a liability, so nobody does swears. So in order to get out of the swear, what does he do? He pays you $10,000, and then you let him go. That's the way it works. It's a workaround, halachic workaround. So one of the major banks, when it came to a situation where they were going to lose a lot of money due to this Heter Iska, they told a number of clients that it's just a halachic formality. It's nothing really. It's just for the rabbis. This is nothing binding, and we're giving you only this much money, and goodbye. This is a halachic formality. It has nothing to do with how the bank works. And they took him to court, to secular court. And in the secular court, the judge said, "Did you sign the contract?" He says, "We signed the contract, but it's just for the rabbis, just for the batat." So the judge gave them over the head. They gave over the head to the CEOs of the bank, and they made them pay. They lost a lot. The banks lost a lot of money out of this because the judge forced them. Now, because of that, they weren't going to stay quiet. What did? They nullified Heter Iska. We're not doing Heter Iska anymore. Now that we know it's real, we're not going to do it anymore. So they stopped doing it, and Rav Elyashiv arranged a cherem, an excommunication, to be placed on this bank, that no religious clientele will have money. You had tens of thousands of people taking their money out of the bank, and they saw how much money they were losing. They were forced. They had no choice. They had to sign, and Rav Elyashiv was smart. Rav Elyashiv made them sign a contract that if any representative of the bank ever claims that this Heter Iska is a joke, he gets an automatic $100,000 fine. Automatic, before anything else. An automatic $100,000 fine. And it's signed what's called Shtar Beirus, which is Chok HaBorut, is the arbitration law. So it has the power of an arbitration law, which is basically, that's the agreement, it's legally binding. So these things all have to be halachically valid, and it's not to be taken as just a halachic formality. It's the real contract of the actual business. Now, what happens if they did not do this tonight? They didn't do this condition. So in such a case, there's no way to make the condition now. You can't stop the business and say, okay, we just learned about this now. I had no idea. I'm going to have a new coffee meeting with my Gentile partner, and we're going to sign a new contract. It doesn't work that way. Once you started the business, not based on these conditions, it's forever stained, that you can never take Schar Shabbos. So what do you have to do? We're going to discuss a way out in the next sif, but in this sif, let's say there's no way out. So what you have to do, or let's say, so he asked me, well, we do once a year the accounting of the income, and then we split it. What do I do now? So we would tell him, even if we have a way out for the future, what about the past? He will tell him that all the money that was made on Shabbos has to go only to the Gentile. And what about the weekday money? Do I get to keep one full day instead of that? Absolutely not. Everything of the weekday is split 50-50. So he basically loses a whole day of work, of income, or 50% of Shabbos income he loses out, because he's not making that up in his weekday, because he didn't condition it to begin with. Now again, if the Gentile wants on his own, to give it, he's allowed to, but you can't force him and you can't edge him on that. It has to be a pure matana, and he has to know that legally he's not chayav to give you this money. And if he wants to give you a present, it's just like any present he's allowed to give you. But otherwise, that's why it's very, very important when you enter a partnership with a Gentile, get it through a Rav, go to a Bezdin for them to work out the shtaris, that there shouldn't be any confusion. There was a Yid in Montreal in the 60s or 70s that he had a business that ran on Shabbos, that was open on Shabbos, and he wrote to the Rebbe about a number of things. And one of the things he was writing, that his business is doing terrible, he's facing bankruptcy, he's in a tremendous debt, he's under a lot of stress. And the Rebbe told him, this is the source of your problem. You're leaving your business open on Shabbos. And the Rebbe gave him a remedy of how to fix the situation, which is actually the next few sifim. We're going to see what the Rebbe's remedy was. Now, what happens if they don't know how much money was made on Shabbos? We don't know. Inside this bank account that carries all the income of the year, you have all the Shabbos money, which is forbidden for the Jew to take. So what do you do? In that situation, you just split everything by 7. So split that amount that you have in the bank. So let's say you have $7 million at the end of the year, split it by 7. Every day is worth $1 million. And therefore, the guy straight up takes 1 million, and the rest of the 6 you split evenly 3-3. So he comes out of this business with 4 million, you come out with 3 million. The yesh matin and haschar b'diavad afilu hisnu v'chalku stam.
Do that with is totally forbidden.
To do what l'chatchila?
Enter an arrangement that that's what you're going to do.
Oh, of course it's mutter. I'm not. That's the most mutter way of doing it. I mean, the most mutter way is that's not open on Shabbos at all. But if I initially want to give up money, I have the right to. I mean, if I want to tell the guy, listen, I'll make 10% of the profit, you make 90% of the profit. It's your decision. So if you want to tell him, you make the whole money, you make all the income of Shabbos, and the rest of the week they will split 50-50. I make 0 money from it being open on Shabbos. I am making no benefit. It's even better than the case of where, not financially, of course.
But you can do it as a with Hatkilah, you take 60%, I'll take.
Of the weekday, again, the only way to do it that you will be making money off Shabbos work, that's the idea. Again, let's focus on it again. To make money off, this is the whole thing. You want to make money off the work of the business income of Shabbos. The only way to arrange that is to initially stipulate that I will be working one of the days of the business fully and make all that money, and you will be working Shabbos and make all that money. And you can only do that switch to begin with. You can't do that switch later on. Now, we are going to learn of a case where you don't need to do this, and you can automatically split everything 50-50. We're going to see that very soon in the Ramah, that there's a case where you don't need to make a Tanai. The Ramah here gives an amazing hector, and this is very relevant for today. Most businesses today, usually the owners are not the one in the physical store working. So, I mean, big businesses, right? Not small business. Big businesses, the owner is not the one in the store actually working. He's more the office guy. He's just, making sure everything's going okay. Back at what was discussed in the actual, if you looked at it, we're talking about a field. The field needs, irrigation, and you need to pick the stuff. So the guy would do the whole Saturday, the Jew would do the whole Thursday, and they want to split everything evenly. That can only be done if you did the Tanai. Otherwise, you're benefiting from his work. He's working for me. He's picking and plucking vegetables on Shabbos for me. I'm benefiting from those sales, 50%. You want to do it that way, you got to do the condition to begin with, have it signed in a legally binding way that all of Thursday's sales are yours, all of Saturdays are yours. Okay. But in a case where none of us are doing anything on Shabbos, let's say another example back in the day where you used to have public ovens that people would come and bake their bread and you had to pay. So let's say you had to pay, a certain amount of money every single day, and it's jointly owned by the Jew and the Gentile. So there's no work. The Jew and Gentile are not doing any work during the week. They're just collecting money. Okay, they're just collecting money. So in that situation, you don't have to make this Tanai, and it's permitted at the end of the month to split everything evenly, because what are you going to say? Well, the money made on Shabbos the guy was my shliach. What shliach? He didn't do anything. He didn't do anything on Shabbos. Gayim came along and did the service, and they're paying me. and I didn't collect the money on Shabbos, the money was collected afterwards, or the guy collected on Shabbos. Nonetheless, he does not consider it a malacha. The Isser would only be if there's actually work involved. Number two, this is the main head of the Ramah. In a case where we, let's say, work, myself and my Gentile partner, we're working evenly every single day in the store, either together or we do every single day. You do 4 hours and I do 4 hours. That's how it is daily. 6 hours, whatever the arrangement is. And on Saturday, he decides on his own to work the whole day. He knows you're Orthodox. You will not be working on Saturday. You told him, I'm not going to come to the store on Saturday. And instead of him saying, well, it's not right, you have to make up the work a different day, you'd work then the whole Thursday and I'll work the whole Saturday, which then enters us to this whole balagan where you have to do the shtar. Instead, he says, don't worry about it. I understand. I'll work Saturday. And he works together with you, split evenly every single day. In that situation, if he decides to split the salary, the income of Saturday, he's allowed to, because he's giving you a present. You didn't condition, you didn't send him, he decided on his own. So in other words, whenever the guy was not legally obligated based on the business arrangement to work on Shabbos, then even if he decides to do so, I'm allowed to benefit from half of the proceeds if he chooses, not must, but chooses to give it to me. So that's, now I don't know practically if a guy would be willing to do this,
It seems a little slippery stuff.
The guy will get you back somewhere else.
Unofficial agreement that I'll give you a gift.
No, you
can't put more fences around that.
Right. Listen, if the guy is, he let's say you own 75% of the business, he only owns 25% of the business, and he's willing as because you're basically, that 75% is basically a loan for himself. And he's willing to do the work on Shabbos, so he's not working for you. He doesn't have to. It's not part of interest. He's doing a favor if he wants to do so.
But some people actually sort of sell their business to Shabbos.
Oh, that's coming up. But that would realize, very good, what you're bringing up is not our case at all. Here we are discussing a business that is righteously, under Gentile Jewish ownership. It's not that I'm doing a trick to have a Gentile join me. That's how the business is. Nothing to do with Shabbos. The business is owned by Jew and Gentile together. Okay, halacha 2. Halacha 2, the Mechaber writes, says the Mechaber, and there's no argument on this, that this whole idea of that you have to stipulate before you start the business that the income of the days will be split. You'll get the entire Saturday, I'll get another weekday. It doesn't have to actually be that way in the end game, meaning that although initially that's how the stipulation must be, and legally he gets to keep all of Saturday and I get to keep all of Thursday, if we decide on our own later on if the guy, agrees to split everything evenly, then he's allowed to do so. He doesn't have to, but if he wants to, he says, the guy says, let's just split everything evenly. We see sometimes Thursday makes more, we see sometimes Saturday makes more. Let's just split everything evenly instead of having to have an accountant sit through the whole Saturday and sit through the whole Thursday and then have to pay out of the business another, $5,000 a month to pay the accountant. So let's just split everything evenly and that's it. If he wants to, no problem. Because if I end up getting more money, it was Michael. He wanted to do it himself. He agreed to do it. So there's no problem in splitting the income if the conditions and stipulations and legally binding agreements were made. 3, halacha gimel. Now we're going to discuss the case. Let's say the person he already learned that he's losing out $1 million because Saturday's $1 million of income is all belonging to the Jew. He just heard the share and he's chayzer b'tshuva. He wants to do things properly. $1 million out of his income. And now the 6 million left, he has to split even. So now he says, Rabbi, what do we do? I want to do everything right for the future. He just lost $1 million. So he didn't do the condition. What hope is there? What can we do? So the Mechaber here gives a few options. You get yourself a nice Gentile lawyer. You tell him, listen, my partner and I want to sell our business and want to buy it back. Now he's going to think that this is for sure something illegal going on. Well, you know what? He never heard of such a thing. So he explained to him, no, we have a problem. It's a Jewish thing. You have your rabbi there with him. He explained to him also, so he doesn't get all scared of the authorities, because it sounds kind of strange. Who wants to sell their business to somebody and then buy it back to that moment? So the idea is you sell your business to this guy, legally, 100% legally binding, not fictitious. That's why I said use a lawyer. And he does it in a real legally binding way. The business now officially belongs to him, and you can sell it to him for a dime. It'd be kind of silly because technically he just bought your business for a dime. So you can say you'll pay a dime up front. The value of the business is $5 million. You'll pay $5 million up to 3 years. And if he wants to go ahead and take the business as is, it's a real city. But the way we try to do it, right, is that a trustworthy guy, he'll sell it back to me. He'll sell us back the business. So he gives us the dime, buys the business, and right then and there we buy it back from him. And we buy it back from him, and we write on our contract, me and the guy who was my partner, that we're stipulating that Saturday's income is his, Thursday's income is mine. And that's how you redo it. So you basically nullify the business and then reopen it, which is a hassle. Yeah, there may be, whatever it is. That's the price of not doing things right to begin with. So that's one option. Another option is to split the partnership, split the business, split everything. Let's say it's a store that has products, so you get half the products, he gets half the products. The business is closed, it's over. And the next day you decide we're reopening, we rejoined. The Shutfus rejoined the partnership and we're reopening the business. That's another way of being able to do it, is to just nullify your partnership together. Okay, so these are the roundabouts way of working it. Now, based on this, let me just finish the Ramah. Over here. Okay, so here comes a very important point. From this we learn, and the Ramah says, a case where there was absolutely no Gentile partner in your business. It's Jewish owned completely. You own it. You're the only owner. And it's been open over Shabbos for the past 2.5 weeks. So obviously the money made on Shabbos is forbidden for you to keep. It's Shabbos. You have to get rid of it. You can donate the money to tzedakah. You can't benefit from the money that was made on Shabbos. But what do we do from now on? This business is, 30% of its income is on Saturday. So what do I do? So if you have real bitachon and emunah, you close it. That's it. You close it on Shabbos. So you close it. But technically, especially in the case where someone, you have a lot of people, they just started joining the Beis Chabad, they're joining Minyan, and they're becoming more frum. We have the case of a person still is married to his Gentile wife. It's very hard. It's very hard to tell them, okay, you have to Shema Torah mitzvahs, get rid of the shiktzah. It's not so simple. It's not a big sign for them. It's not a simple thing at all. So too a business, right? A business is just as big as an assignment, just as big as a challenge. You can tell them you have to close your business. So in these situations where, now for a shiksa, there's no roundabout way. She has to get rid of the shiksa. There's nothing to do. There's no shtar mechira you can do to have an arrangement to be married to a shiksa. Geirus, okay, no. We should never be following that. But regarding a business, since technically we have a halachic, legally mandated way to do it, in such a situation, this is what is suggested to be done, is that the rabbi will tell his congregant, listen, I understand you want to keep Shabbos, and right now for your level, closing your store on Shabbos is out of the question. What we can do is we can sell your business to a Gentile for Saturdays. So from 6 o'clock, let's say from sunset of Friday to nightfall of Saturday, you get yourself a Gentile lawyer, you sell him the business for those days, and of course for the hassle of the sale and having you're going to pay him a monthly salary, you're going to pay him monthly for his efforts of going ahead and buying the business every single Friday, the Friday for you, which it doesn't have to be worded in that way. You just say these are the proceeds that you get to collect on Friday, unless you want to actually sit down and go through everything. Let's say if we want to sit down and do an app calculation with an accountant, then it has to be legally it's yours. So all the Saturday income is yours. And you obviously have to pay me for the business, whatever we decide at the time of the sale. But if you don't want to go through that hassle, I'll make it automatic that you get for every Saturday that you own the business, I'll give you $1,000. And we don't go through we don't have to go through an accountant. But the idea is
So
that
you can profit from the revenue from Shabbos?
I am, because the guy's giving to me as a matana. The guy's giving to me as a present. Intended.
Your agreement,
Yeah.
give you $1,000.
The agreement has to be, no, the agreement has to be like this. The business on Saturdays, Friday night, Saturdays is 100% yours. And you have the right, if you want to get yourself an accountant. And I don't have to get you an accountant. It's your business on Saturdays. Get yourself an accountant, figure out how much you made. Today, everything's on the computer, so you see exactly the dates and times. Figure out how much you made. And then you have to get your accountant also to then deduct the price of electricity and the workers that you have to pay for that day. And don't forget, I'm the business owner. You don't get this business for free. So we're setting it right now that for every Saturday, you have to pay me $5,000. So $5,000 plus all the workers, and then you check the income. The smart way to do it is sell it to him for $5,000. Let's say the business only makes $1,000 on Saturday. So you sell it to him that he has to pay you $5,000. So you make it not worth it for him to want to go ahead and do the calculation and split. Let's just pay you $5,000. So you make it that, in the event that you don't want to go through this whole hassle. So we'll assume that the business made $1,000 profit, and we'll give you $1,000 for every Saturday profit. That's what we'll assume. And if the business did make more money, it's his decision to give it to me. He doesn't have to. It's written in the contract. Go get yourself an account and figure out how much is yours, how much is mine. If you don't want to, you just want to give me the money, that's fine. I understand it doesn't sound so halak, but that's the halachic workaround, and that's what's practically done. And this is what the Rebbe told this individual to do. The Rebbe told this individual in Montreal is sell your business to a guy for Shabbos, and so you'll be able to, so it's halachically not yours, and you're not working on Shabbos. Now, of course, this would be a problem if everyone knows it's Jewish owned. We already discussed before. If everyone knows it's Jewish owned, it's a big problem to do so. Now, in fact, the Rav of Montreal at that time was Rabbi Hirschsprung, and he did not agree to this. He did not want to do this. I mean, I told you, it's only, it's shady business, this sale. He didn't want to do it. So when this individual showed him the letter of the Rebbe that the Rebbe instructed, so then he agreed. But at first, he did not want to go ahead and do this. Another issue that comes up today regarding all this is regarding a Jewish non-firm partner. What do you do in that situation? Here, it's a lot more severe. It's not just it's not a miral anachri. It's literally causing a Jew to work on Shabbos. It's a Jew making money on Shabbos. So technically, the same laws apply. I have to make the condition beforehand that you're not allowed to work on Shabbos, of course. That's between you and God. I mean, I'm also telling you, as a religious Jew, you can't work on Shabbos. But if you decide to do so, I cannot take any profit from your Shabbos profits. But in exchange for that, I'm going to take a Sunday's profit, the entire Sunday's profit, or entire Thursday's profit. While that is a technical way of doing it, practically, it's the Paiskim, when it deals with a non-religious Jew, advise that one should just not enter into such a business to begin with. So when a person's looking for a business to invest in, and he knows he's going to have a non-firm partner, and the non-firm partner already tells him to begin with that, no, this business works on Shabbos. That's the way the business works. And then if it's an investment in the terms that you become a co-owner of the business, then this is a big problem, and a person should avoid investing his money in such an arrangement.
Probably 1125 would be a good compromise, is where people who going to the moral share. We were striving for 10, 20, or 11, 20, but 10, 25, 11, 25.
Okay, we finished the first set of halachas. Next week in Meretz Hashem, we possibly will be doing Hilchos Shavuos. I'll see if we can finish it all on Tuesday nights, and we'll do Tuesday night. If not, we'll already begin this coming Sunday.
This
Tuesday night regular, no.
Maybe a private message, because I don't have time to give the answer right now, but I'm curious about the range of extending music past Friday home or day, if there was a wedding happening there, that right on the ground.
It's a machlekes. But the Rebbe's shita was not to do it.
Good day, great trip, enjoy.
This time it worked? Great.
Come on. We're still going. We're still going. And this is. Great, you're beginning with the care necessary to prevent a fire on Shabbos. And
That's in the description and that's in the title?
no, it's in a note I put on.
Oh, okay, description.
Sort of like beginning with care necessary to prevent a fire on Shabbos and necessity of putting out a fire on Shabbos.
Mm-hmm.
Necessity.
We actually had our fire alarm go off in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Friday night, yeah. It was 2:30 in the morning.
Because
It evidently picked up that the Shabbos candles, which were on our counter, were causing a lot of smoke. I mean, it wasn't causing a lot of smoke, like we couldn't see the smoke, but I guess for the fire alarm it was.